£5,000. Just your average guy on the internet talking about cameras. Hello, welcome back. Today is Friday and day 5 of the 7 lens reviews in 7 days. I've got a very special lens for you today. Today I have for you the amazing Leica Noctilux 50mm f1. It's quite a lens, and compared to a standard Leica lens, it's quite beefy. Let me tell you a bit about the Leica Noctilux 50mm f1, and this is the version 2. The important question: price. There are different versions of the Leica Noctilux 50mm f1. The average price of a used 50mm f1, £5,000, which is scary money. The Leica Noctilux 50mm f1 is no longer manufactured, so the nearest you can get to that now, like still as a production model, is the 50mm f.95 Noctilux, a spherical version. Now the price of a 0.95 used is £6,500 roughly, and new is going to cost you around £8,600. That's a lot of money. Just as a small side note, to anybody wondering why I have quite a few expensive lenses, I prioritise photography over most things in life. So I don't have a house, I eat cheap, I live cheap. So by making savings everywhere else, it then allows me to invest the money in more expensive Leica lenses, or lots of lenses, or a combination of the two. Just your average guy on the internet talking about cameras in a £5 t-shirt with no fancy watch, or I just happen to have my priorities a bit mixed up. I go all in on photography. I'm quite focused on what I enjoy. Okay, where were we? The size of this lens. This is a big lens, so the filter size of the Leica Noctilux is much larger than all the other Leica lenses I own. So I had to buy separate filters. Being a f1 lens, or if you have the f.95 lens, these are fast lenses, which normally means you nearly always need an ND filter, especially if you're shooting film, because as you can see on the M6, the maximum shutter speed is only 1/1000, and that's not enough to be able to use a f1 lens in daylight. So you will need an ND filter if you're buying this lens, unless you live somewhere in the dark, or if you shoot at f8. If you shoot at f8, don't buy this lens. It's a complete waste of money. You buy a Noctilux to shoot it wide open or close to wide open, in my eyes. So filters. The Noctilux filter size, the f1 that I have, is 60mm filter thread, often known as E60. I had to spend quite a bit of money on filters because none of my filters fit, so I bought high quality filters after spending so much money on the lens itself. So I've got a B&W yellow filter for shooting obviously black and white photography, and then I sometimes stack 2 ND filters on top of each other to get it dark enough to allow me to use flash photography with a Noctilux in bright-ish conditions. So I've got one, these are how do you pronounce it? Heliopan. I've got one ND -2 and one ND -3. So that's -5, total of -5 stops onto the front of the Noctilux to break it dark enough to then use with strobes. And it gives a pretty cool look. I'll include some pictures. So that's the filters. After spending a huge amount of money on the lens, I then spent a tiny amount of money on the lens hood. So this is a eBay special lens hood that just clips over the little bit that sticks out. Then you twist. It does help with flare, and in terms of viewfinder blockage, if you use one of these, I think they're called vented hoods, I can't see the bottom right corner of the image, but everything else I can see. So even though it's a really big lens, I can still see probably more than you'd think, and I don't find it affects me in terms of composition. It goes from f1 to f16. Being my most expensive lens, is this my favourite lens? It may surprise you that it isn't my favourite lens. Yes, it's a really cool lens to have, to give a special effect that no other lens I own can do, but it's not my favourite. The reason it's not my favourite is one reason only. The closest focus distance is only 1 meter. The modern Summicron that I showed you in a previous video, that focuses as close as 0.7 meters. And as a portrait photographer, I find 1 meter close focus distance quite restrictive. Often I want to get closer. So on a full frame camera such as the Leica M240 or full frame film cameras, M6 you've already seen, it's not that close. 50mm at 1 meter is not particularly close. I'll include some example images using the Leica M9, Leica M240. And then I can include some film examples. If you use it on a Leica M8, you can see the review. That has a 1.33 crop factor, and that's a really nice sweet spot because if you shoot black and white on a Leica M8 with a Noctilux wide open, you get the sharpness of the Leica M8 CCD sensor, you get the extra reach of the 1.33 crop, and then you get the amazing kind of rendering from the Noctilux. And that's a really nice combination, M8 plus Noctilux F1 shot in black and white. Full frame will give a greater shallow depth of field, obviously being full frame. And then if you want to go even further than that, I also use the Noctilux on the Leica CL digital mirrorless camera. See the review. And I can include some Leica CL example images shot with the Noctilux also. If you want the most dreamy look from the Noctilux, shoot it on full frame. One question you may have is, how easy is it to focus a 50mm f1 lens on a vintage camera, vintage-ish camera? Because I use this on a Leica M3 as well, which is obviously 1950s. I've got reviews to all the M2, M3, M4P, M6, just look in my Leica playlist or back catalogue. If I think about using fast lenses on an SLR camera or DSLR camera, if I used an autofocus lens, the camera wasn't calibrated sufficiently to now focus a lot of the time at 1.4. So you probably think to yourself, how are you going to get 50mm f1 in focus? And the answer is a well-calibrated rangefinder is better than any autofocus. You're not relying on a computer in the camera, you're just relying on your eyes and the kind of twiddling the dial. If you have an extremely well calibrated Leica M camera, you can now focus on a 50 f1 lens every day. So you do need your Leica camera to be spot on calibrated to hit focus with a 50 f1 lens at f1 at 1 meter, because that's the kind of the greatest shallow depth of field you'll get from a Noctilux. If you want to make focusing even easier, you probably saw this in my previous video. That is a Leica 1.4 viewfinder magnifier. It screws onto the viewfinder, so it gives it like an M3 view with a non-M3 body. So I rely really heavily on these. The Leica Noctilux 50mm f1 version 2 is my preference over the modern 50mm f.95 because the modern Noctilux 50mm f.95 looks very similar in rendering to the Summilux spherical 50mm. I was teaching a workshop in London and one of the students had a Noctilux 50.95 lens and they kindly lent their Noctilux to me for the entire workshop, which I was extremely grateful for. I'll include some Leica Noctilux 50mm f.95 photos to show you the difference in terms of rendering. In terms of the look of the Noctilux, it has very heavy vignetting on the sides, like really heavy, the heaviest of any lens I've got. It's sharp enough wide open, easily to use on digital. It's kind of a soft sharp, it's not sharp by any standards, but it's acceptably sharp for my taste. And then for film, I do try and shoot it at f1 for some photos, but it's borderline just about sharp enough. So sometimes I'll shoot it at like 1.2 and it just kind of adds a little bit extra sharpness without losing the famous kind of Noctilux look. Hopefully I've not forgotten anything. If you got some value out of today's video, I'd love you to hit the like button. And if you've used a Noctilux or own a Noctilux, let me know if you're an f1 shooter or a 0.95. Hit the subscribe button and turn on your notifications. See you back here tomorrow for lens number 6.